welcome to the Crispy Ear podcast. My name is Ellie Kerr, Director of Merseyside Women of the Year, and I have a gorgeous guest joining me today, which is Debbie Rogers. How do you do? From
Hello.
Jones Place. Founder. You were an inspirational woman in 2022, Deb. Where's that time gone?
It's crazy, like 4 years.
It is. When I was looking back, and I was like, so, I'll do some research and I'll have a look. And then I just went, oh, well, that's useless, isn't it? Because you've come so far in, well, it's not 4 years. Did you start it in 2020?
Yeah, so we officially opened in, 5 years ago this week.
Wow.
2020, yeah, we opened.
Yeah. So from 2020, obviously, as I say, Woman of the Year, part of Woman of the Year in 2022. But 6 years, it's just flown.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like Sean's Place now is not what we imagined Sean's Place to be. It's what we hoped it would be, but we never dreamed of getting there, really. So yeah, to see the journey and to be on that journey as well has been incredible. Well,
you came across, obviously, from being nominated and one of the finalists and the winner of the Inspirational Woman, to obviously for Watty in 2022. What's that meant, or what's it been part of? Because I know on the day you couldn't make it because, listen, family, there's nothing more important than family. And was it
my daughter? She had a cheerleading finals in Bournemouth, and I couldn't miss her. So no, thank you for understanding. And I think the audience loved my husband more.
I was going to say, we had super subs, didn't we?
Yes.
The boys were there. So they were brilliant. They stood up and, took the award and stuff for you. But obviously, you've been a big part of it since moving on and stuff, because obviously we try and keep everybody together. But what's it meant for you? I'm with you since winning.
Yeah, it's so surreal, like when we win the awards, because obviously that's not why we do it. I know everybody says that, but it's so true. But I think having that platform where we get to stand on a stage in front of so many people and share our story and the work that we're doing is incredible, because people don't know about us unless we are given those platforms. And since then, there's been so many people when we've been at events, or if they've referred to family members and loved ones to us and said, well, I found out about you because I've seen your husband talk at Merseyside Women of the Year, which has just been amazing, because the more people that know about us, the more people that can get the support that they need.
Yeah. And sadly, I'm only looking from the outside looking in. From my perspective of what I see, that is increasing, because is it because more awareness, or have you got more people coming through the door because of the different circumstances?
I think it's probably a mix of all of those things. I think thankfully a lot more people know that we exist now, and we've got a really good platform on social media, and word of mouth gets round and people have good experiences and then share that with other people, which is great, because that's what we want. I think people's circumstances, life is getting tough just for everyone. Even people who haven't struggled previously are struggling. People who seemingly have got everything is struggling at the moment with the cost of living and just life's pressures in general. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of a mix of everything. I think also that stigma, although it's still there's a lot more celebrities who are speaking out now about their mental health battles, and I think that's almost like showing the younger generation in particular that it's okay to go and talk about this. It's quite cool actually to do it. So when we first opened Sean's Place, we were seeing a lot more older gentlemen coming through, whereas now there's a lot of the younger ones coming through, which is, great, because that's what we want. Although it seems bad that people are coming through to Sean's Place more and more, it's actually a positive, because if we can get in there early and get them the support, hopefully we won't be seeing them when they're in the 70s and 80s, because, they don't need us at that stage.
So when you said before, just to give, obviously, a little bit of context, why does Sean's Place exist?
Yeah, so I lost my brother Sean in 2019 to suicide. I always knew if somewhere like Sean's Place existed, then he'd still be here, because although he did have mental health struggles, clinical mental health needs, that could be dealt with and managed in the way that it was. But what actually he was missing was friendships and connections and a reason to feel good about himself. He was quite lonely and isolated, which is hard for people to admit, and it's not something Sean ever talks about, but as a sister, I knew he didn't have many friends and many people that he could go out with and have fun with and have those moments of joy, really. He never really had much confidence, much self-belief, and he never had anyone to bring that out in him as well. So I always knew if there was a place he could go to where he didn't feel ashamed of his mental health struggles, you know, he knew that other people struggled as well, but also where he could go and do an art class or a chess club or an exercise class, but with people that he felt had something in common with him. That would have changed his life. It would have transformed his life, because Sean, he loved art, he loved chess, he loved games. He was fun. He was fun to be around, but that very rarely was able to come out in him. So when Sean died, there was a lot of failings and missed opportunities into his care. So I found myself in a very dark place with inquests and investigations, and that's another story. But I always knew if somewhere like Sean's Place existed, then life would have been so different, and he potentially would still be alive today. So we created a space that is now Sean's Place, and we thought it would just be a cup of tea, a bit of company once a week, and we thought that's all Sean's Place would be. And then now it's just evolved so much into so much more than that, through the people that come through our doors, the things that they're telling us would help them. And
so now, it's very much user-led.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. It's all that, and that's been the success of Sean's Place, really. When I started Sean's Place, there was a lot of people that said to me, men won't come places like this, you're wasting your time, we tried it, it didn't work, men don't talk, do they? Oh, good luck with that, you should do it for women. I had all of that, I still do now, and I'm like, no, because my brother would have went, and if we keep saying that, we're just going to keep losing people to suicide, so we need to do something about it, and if you're not going to do it, I'll do it. So I opened, obviously, a version of Sean's Place back in the day, praying that people would prove them all wrong, and they'd come, and they did. Within a couple of weeks we were inundated with men like coming through, and we had one guy who came and he started crying, and he was an elderly gentleman. He was like, where have you been all my life? I've been looking for something like this for years. And I knew then, I thought that this was meant to be, we need to, and I need to keep doing this, and now it is what it is today.
Well, I know a lot of people, you get a lot of support, don't you? But also when we were chatting before, and you said about it's more the people that have benefited from, so when we're talking about awards and stuff like that, it's about people that wanted to support, nominate you, but now it's people that have been through and used your services that have got the benefits and feel that what it is to have Sean's Place in their life that has meant a lot.
Yeah, I think we work really closely with families as well, so it's not just the person accessing the support, it's we support the whole family, because I know what that was like to be desperately seeking support for Sean, and I did feel so helpless and useless, and I don't want anyone else to feel like that. So we do get to know a lot of the families, especially those who were with us in the first couple of years, because we were a lot smaller then. It's a lot harder now because we've got so many people coming through. It's like we've got 450 men a week coming through to us now, so it's hard to know everybody individually, but we do try our best, and our team are amazing. I don't know how they know everybody's names and dogs' names and everything, but they do, and it's because they care. And I think when we do get nominated for awards, and it does come from their families, it's so special, because we want them to have a good experience, and we want them to go and have an amazing life. And I think we have got something special at Sean's Place, and we know that because we're in it. But when they tell us that was their experience, it's just the best thing ever. That's what we do. Well, that's not what we do it for, but that's what we hope happens when someone comes through to the service. We hope they have a good experience, and we hope that the families feel that too.
I'm sure, from the perspective of the families that and the people that you take in or that come to you, the impact that you must have on them. So you're looking at sort of crystallise it. Listen, nobody knows better than me that, all the good stuff you do, when you're sort of looking for funding and you're looking for different, not credibility, because you don't need that, I don't mean that way, but impact reports and sort of like, the difference you're making. So is that something you're looking at for the future?
Yeah, we obviously have to, write impact reports. That's how we get our funding. And we do measure someone's journey using clinical measuring tools, should we say, because that's what funders like to see, it's recognised and stuff like that. I wish we could measure physically how different somebody looks after being with us for a couple of months. You know, if somebody said to me, how do you know if somebody's, you know, doing okay? Obviously we've got all the measuring tools, we've got the feedback that they tell us, but you can sometimes physically see people looking taller. They look taller, and they'll walk quicker. They'll smile at you when they're coming in, and that's the stuff that you can't put in a funding application, but that's the stuff that we notice, and we know that we you know, he's doing okay. But there's, when they give us the feedback, or we run steering groups regularly and stuff like that, that's why Sean's Place has grown to the level that it has now, because it's all been built and designed around those who are accessing the service. So the programs that we run are all stuff that they told us that they wanted, and that's why they're so busy. You know, we don't dictate to them what's on offer, they tell us, and then they come, which is great. And you know, the therapies that we deliver and stuff like that is all being sort of naturally evolved around the needs of those who are coming through the door. So it's very much led by our members, really. We just sort of follow them and what they need.
Well, I was fortunate enough to come to the ball, which was amazing, absolutely fabulous. And you had the choir.
Yes.
They were brilliant.
Yes, I keep calling it a choir. Apparently we're not allowed to call them that. They're a song group. They're too cool to be a choir, apparently. They keep telling me.
Well, whatever they were brilliant. But how does that come along again? Is that sort of like, you know, do two people get together and go, we want to sing, or then is it, you know, how does that evolve?
Yeah, so since day one with Sean's Place, we've always had music involved. There's a lot of guys who come through to our service who are very creative, whether that's art or drama or music. That is their thing. That's what makes them feel good about themselves. That's how they express themselves. You know, not everybody will be able to communicate how they're feeling through therapy, for example, where some people can do that through music. So we've always had music involved in the service. We've always had bands. We've always had some sort of connection with music. And then through our steering groups, we always ask them, you know, what do you want to see at Sean's Place that we don't currently deliver? And a couple of people said, you know, I'd love some sort of opportunity to sing or to act. So one of our therapists who was with us at the time could sing and played the piano. So we sort of had a chat and was like, do you fancy creating a choir kind of thing? And we put it together, we piloted it, and instantly, you know, people started to come and they enjoyed it. But then it started to get a bit formal with like harmonies and stuff, and they were like, oh yeah, like, we don't really want harmonies, we just want to sing. But that, again, they told us that, so we changed it, and now it is just an opportunity to come and just enjoy music in a safe space where people feel comfortable enough to let themselves go and sing. And then it just so happens that they're all really good. So we wanted a moment for them really at the Winter Ball where, you know, it's not just me stood there talking about Sean's Place, because I just don't do it justice. I wanted them to see the guys that they are fundraising for on the night, to say that's where your money is going. They're the people, they're the lives that, you know, are impacted by what we're doing tonight. And the choir, well, the song group seemed a really nice way to do it, and it was just so special. The moment that we wanted it to be like no one Britain's Got Talent when Simon presses the golden buzzer and the golden like leaves fall down. We wanted it to be a moment like that for them. Some people, they'll never ever get that experience again. For some people, that was the first time ever performing in front of an audience, like another person, you know, let alone an audience. And it was everything we hoped it would be for them. The audience were all on the feet, there was tears, it was just gorgeous.
But that for them also, it's like a nice memory.
Yeah.
That, you know, even because sometimes sort of when you go, I did that.
Yeah.
I did that.
It was just as you say, it's a moment that no one can take away from them. So no matter how rubbish life gets, no matter what happens the next day, no matter how bad the mental health deteriorates, no one can ever take that away, that moment from them. And that's what we look to create at Sean's Place, those moments of joy that we just don't have sometimes as adults anymore. And life just seems rubbish all the time. And that's what was happening with Sean. It was either trauma therapy, medication, counselling, more medication. But there was no fun, there was no joy in his life. So I think that moment at the ball just symbolised everything that we wanted to achieve, really, when we set up Sean's Place.
Yeah, no, it was a very special moment in the evening. It was fabulous. It was really good. So we've got 4 pillars that sort of like we base around things around, which are a network, information, money and self-belief. So I just wondered, out of those 4 things, network, information, money and self-belief resonate with you?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I know everyone says that. I'd probably say self-belief for the reason that I said before, really. I'd say trust your gut, because I did have people, quite senior people actually, who I looked up to at the time, tried to put me off building Sean's place and tell me not to recreate the wheel. Men won't come, we tried it, doesn't work. But I always had that self-belief that, well, it will, because I'm going to make it work. And I think even now, I still have those moments where I doubt myself, I compare myself to others and think, oh my God, they're incredible. Like, I wish I could do all of those things. So I think self-belief definitely fluctuates, depending on who you're around. But without self-belief, I don't think Sean's place would have got to where it is, because it's easy to give up when you've got people telling you not to do it. But I'm glad that it isn't.
And sometimes it's the easier thing to do. You go, oh, okay then. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think, in another lifetime, if Sean hadn't have died and people were telling me not to do it and it won't work, maybe I would have given up. But I'd just lost somebody in the worst way possible, and there was no way. There's a fire in my belly that you just, you get when you lose somebody. So I was never going to say no. That wasn't even an option, really.
So what's next?
So we've created a young person service at Sean's place. So we're now,
right, okay.
so we've always been 18 plus, and we wanted to get it right with the adult and create like a really good model. And I feel like we do have that now. So we've started to support young people aged 15 to 18, which is working really well. We do programs in schools and within the centre, and that's just to make sure that we're getting into their lives as early as we can, really. So when they leave school and that network of support leaves them, the pastoral team, people checking in on them if they don't attend school, they know that there's somewhere that they can go, and that seems to be working really well. We're in the pilot stage of it, but it's thriving. We're fully booked for schools for the next couple of months as well, which is really positive. And we've self-funded that. Again, we sort of, where there's a will, there's a way, and a lot of schools didn't have funding for it, so we're like, well, we'll do it anyway. So we're just doing it, which has been amazing. We've got a lot that we want to achieve this year. I think the main thing that we want to do is just to keep evolving, but at our pace. We're under a lot of pressure sometimes to create other Sean's places and have them nationally, and I think people think that that's what we should be doing because we've got something that works, but I don't think that's on the cards for us. It's not something that I envisage for Sean's place, really. I think we're quite happy doing what we're doing, but then sharing that,
doing it well,
and also almost like enjoying the ripple effects of it. So I'm working quite closely with a national collaborative called One Voice, One Hope, which is working with Buckingham Palace at the moment as well, and that's sharing the information that we hear at Sean's place and using it, on a national level. We're working with the NHS around safer prescribing of medication and stuff like this, and there's a lot of extra work that we're doing that we hope will, have just as much impact as what we've done at Sean's place.
But also, if you're able to influence on a larger scale, and it's not about it being micro and it being here in Liverpool, which and the Wirral and stuff, and because I'm assuming you did Wirral as well. But if you can sort of influence the bigger picture, so like feeding international statistics and doing that kind of stuff, that's that then takes it to a whole other level, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think we had just over 2,500 men access our support last year. So, and the largest number of people who are losing their lives to suicide are men. So we've got a huge hub of information that could potentially save lives on a large scale. So we're working with some incredible people. Debbie Roberts designed the safer prescribing model, and we've been using our contacts over in this area to try and move that forward, which seems to be taking off. We've got Steve Phillip, who designed the One Voice, One Hope sort of collaborative, which is using his connections at Buckingham Palace. But so we're trying to obviously do what we do, but elevate it a little bit to make sure that the guys who are accessing our service have their voices heard.
Why do you think it does affect more men than women? Is it that thing that fellas, don't talk?
Yeah, there's a couple of theories around it. I think, it does affect women, and, the statistics show that a larger number of women attempt to take their lives, but a large number of men do, end up losing their lives to suicide. So I think it does affect both people. But I think with men, obviously we know that there's a stigma around there, but I do think men do talk. There's just less places for them to go, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. And anyone who wants to create their own version of Sean's Place, I'd help them, completely free of charge, because we want to see more places like this. Because if we keep saying men won't come places like this, then we're always going to have that stigma that, men don't talk. They do. We prove that at Sean's Place. We just have to create the places for them to go. And unfortunately for men, well, we're getting a lot better now. There's a lot more services, but there still isn't enough services for the number of men that need help.
I think it is a much needed. It's very sad that it is needed, but I think without it, there would be an awful lot more families like yourselves that wouldn't know where to go, wouldn't know what to do, or sort of like on the other side of it, you're saving people's lives because you're giving them that hope.
Yeah, and I think that's what people need. They just need to know that life is going to get better. But sometimes they don't see that. They can't see the wood through the trees. So, whether it's through the therapies that we access at Sean's Place, or just meeting someone in the centre whose life has got better since they've been with us, that gives them that hope that, okay, I can get through this now.
So this is called the Crispy Ear Podcast. And for that very reason, why would you go back, or would you go back and say to yourself, your younger self, and give yourself a crispy ear over something that you know now?
I think one of the I've given some talks. I know you give me a heads up about the question. I hope this is a good answer. You did say you've had some brilliant ones. So
no, everybody's is brilliant. I think it's different for everybody, and the reason why we asked that question is obviously because it's one of my daft sayings, a crispy ear. But sometimes that when you go back to yourself, it is sort of like, because we all know hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But at that time, and you go, if I could go back now,
yeah. I think probably, like I said before, trust your gut. If something feels off, it's because it is usually. One of the things that I've found now that I didn't know a couple of years ago, it's the importance of finding your tribe a little bit, finding your people, because when you've got good people around you, and I've got an incredible team now, but it took me a long time to get there. When you find your people, everything else falls into place. Like, you don't have to second guess things, you've got the trust in them, and you can do more together. So I think if I could go back, I'd be like, it's okay, you just need to find your people.
And sometimes though it is difficult.
Yeah.
Not saying that anybody in Sean's Place is a frog, but you do have to kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince, don't you?
I've learned a lot of lessons. I think, I've evolved as well, as sort of the leader of the organisation. But now I'm just me. I don't try anymore. I'm not trying to be a manager or a lead. And I think that's why we've got such a good connection as a team, because we've all got each other's backs and we all play. We've all got our part of the jigsaw. But yeah, it took me a long time to get there, but I can finally say now we've got the best team in the world. Because
this isn't something that you could sit down and write for yourself, is it?
Yeah.
That what I will do is and I think I've said it on probably every single podcast, but I'll probably say it until I'm not doing them anymore. But the whole thing around most of the women that are part of, or that win at Merseyside Women of the Year, is necessity is the mother of all invention. And it was the necessity of knowing that something like Sean's Place needs to exist because of Sean.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have written it for yourself, would you?
Yeah.
You can't magic this up. It's happened because there was a need for it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I never envisaged it would be what it is, and I do feel like I'm winging it most days. I don't know what I'm doing. Completely making it up as it goes along, and just look like I'm doing a good job. But I'm not glad that it worked out the way it was, because I wish Sean was still here. But I'm glad that in Sean's memory, it is what it is now.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's the same. Well, I think if anybody says that I'm in control, I know what I'm doing. Actually, do you know what? I just think that's really boring as well.
Don't know what quite like to feel that.
I always say it's like being, on Wallace and Gromit when he's putting the track down and the penguin's firing at his head.
Yeah.
And you're putting the track down. Okay, maybe not that bad. Maybe have a little bit more of a track in front of you. But sometimes that's where the best innovations and stuff comes from, when you don't have to overthink it and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's great that you've got the right team in place as well, because that makes everything works a lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
So what's next? Is the winter ball happening? Is there something else that we can?
Yeah, so we that's our biggest fundraiser of the year now. We've got amazing support from Teddy Dwyer. Some people, if you're my age, she was like on my telly on Hollyoaks when I was younger, and now she's become a really amazing friend. So she helps us every year to create this amazing event. It really is like a show when you come in. We make sure people get really good value for money. But
so is that November?
It's November, yeah. And it's so crucial that we have that event, because that fundraising is such a necessity for us to keep our lights on, really. Yeah. But I don't think we've confirmed the theme this year. But if anybody wants tickets, that they'll be able to get them. Hopefully by the time this goes out, the theme will be around. But you're really in for a treat when you come. It's a really good event just to come and celebrate with friends and to raise money.
Yeah. And it's uplifting. It's not.
No, it's really uplifting. We want people just to have a great time, because tickets are expensive to stuff like this, and there's nothing worse than going and not feeling like you've had your tickets worth, even though you are doing it for a good cause. So we want people to have an amazing time when we're there. So we put a lot of effort into it, so that we want people to come back as well each year. And already the tables are selling really well. So if anyone is thinking about coming or looking to do a good deed and get involved with an organisation, they can contact me now.
Okay.
By the time this goes out,
get on the website
to organise the tables.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Thank you.
It was fabulous. I absolutely enjoyed it, and I will be back this year.
Yes.
So is there anything else that there's coming up that we can help you with, or that you need sponsorship for? Or
we will need sponsorship for the winter ball. So that will be incredible if anyone wants to help us with that. But what we'd say is, if anybody is thinking or they want to know a bit more about Sean's Place, come and visit us. Like, I do not do it justice. Like, I am boring when I talk. Come and see the building, come and meet the team, come and meet some of the guys who are in there. And obviously contact us first, don't just turn up. Because that way, when you are thinking about supporting us or signposting a loved one to us, you get it, you feel it, because everyone talks about a feeling you get when you come into Sean's Place. So we encourage people to come and say hi. Well,
we'll put all the links and everything will be on the website and all underneath here. Everybody will do all the Joshi stuff afterwards, so you have all the contacts and everything. But thanks very much for coming through.
Thank you.
Coming to speak to us, Deb. It's amazing what you've done. And just carry on doing it, because I suppose it's a much needed service. But thank goodness that you're there for the fabulous work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
That is the end of Crispy Ear Podcast. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.